All right, so picture this. We're in the heart of Manhattan, right? Those huge skyscrapers, the ones that just scream ambition and big deals.
Oh, yeah, I know the ones.
But wait a second.
Hmm.
Aren't we living in, like, the remote work revolution?
Right.
That's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating. Early
Yeah.
2025, it's painting, like a totally different story.
Uh,
We're seeing a surge in office leasing, and it is turning heads.
for sure.
It's the strongest start to a year since, get this, 2014.
Wow, 2014, huh? That really throws a wrench into all those predictions about, the death of the office.
Doesn't it?
It's interesting because we're not just talking about some small uptick or anything. The numbers are actually pretty dramatic.
Yeah, over 5 million square feet leased just in January and February alone.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, that's more than double the monthly average we've seen over the past 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So what's the deal? What's behind this totally unexpected comeback?
Well, there isn't like one simple answer,
Right.
It's more like a bunch of things all coming together at once.
Okay.
On the one hand, you have some really big companies like JP Morgan Chase and even Major League Baseball. They're basically calling their people back to the office full time.
Wow. So a full return.
Yeah, it seems like there's definitely a push from those big corporate names to go back to like a more old school way of doing things.
I see. But is that really the whole story? There's been so much talk about, the good stuff about working remotely, like people getting more done and being happier, all that jazz.
Uh-huh.
Are companies just ignoring all that now?
It's not that black and white.
Right.
Remember that Bloomberg survey you sent over?
Yeah.
It said that 41% of New York employers are actually planning on making their offices bigger.
Oh, wow.
This seems to show that companies are starting to realize that the office isn't going to vanish, it's just changing.
So it's not about like getting rid of remote work completely.
Right.
It's more about finding some kind of middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're adjusting to like the new normal of work. And it seems like a big part of that is making offices a place where people actually want to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that Universal Music Group deal, that really shows how things are changing, right?
Yeah.
300,000 square feet in a brand new building.
Right.
That's a huge commitment.
It is. I mean, they wouldn't be spending that kind of money if they didn't believe in having a physical workspace, right?
Yeah, I mean, that just shows it.
Right. And it's not even just about how big the space is.
Yeah.
We're seeing people wanting buildings with all the modern stuff,
Yeah.
places where they can work together and things that show the company cares about them, like awesome gyms and fancy cafeterias, even places to take care of their kids.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
The office is becoming more of an experience now, not just a place to punch in and out.
That's such a good point. So this isn't just like a bounce back.
Yeah.
It's like a total makeover for what an office can be.
Yeah.
But what about, the effect on the market itself? Are landlords just bending over backwards for these super picky tenants?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
The surge is definitely giving them more power, but we're not seeing a complete, 180 from what we saw during the pandemic.
Okay.
Things like free rent, those are going down, which is the first time that's happened since 2019.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
But those deals are still way higher than they were before the pandemic.
So it was good for building owners, but not like a total win?
Yeah, it's more like they're being cautious.
Okay.
And it makes you wonder about those buildings that aren't as fancy or new,
Right.
Those owners are going to have a much harder time keeping up with all this change.
Yeah, that makes sense. So while all these companies are running to these shiny new spaces, what about those buildings that don't have all the bells and whistles? What happens to them?
It's a real problem, and it's going to force those owners to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to fix things up or find completely new ways to use those spaces.
So it's like this leasing surge is creating two different realities in the Manhattan office market.
Uh-huh.
You've got the winners with their fancy spaces, attracting all the big names, and then you've got those who are struggling to adapt, who have to change their whole game plan just to survive.
That's a really good way to put it.
And it's not even just about the buildings themselves.
No, it's not.
It's about the whole ecosystem around them.
Exactly. Think about all the businesses that depend on a busy office scene.
Oh, yeah.
Restaurants, coffee shops, stores, even those basic services like cleaning,
Right. It all ties together.
That's where things get really interesting. Yeah, it really does. This whole shift in the office scene, it's got this ripple effect across so many different industries.
It's kind of like a chain reaction, right?
Yeah.
One change and boom, a whole bunch of things have to adjust.
Exactly, like cleaning companies, for instance.
Oh, yeah. Good example.
They used to work with all kinds of clients, including those older office buildings we were talking about.
Right.
But now that businesses are going for these fancy modern spaces, the cleaning industry has to keep up too.
Makes total sense. If you're a company dropping millions on a top-notch office,
Mhm.
you're not going to cheap out on keeping it clean, are you? You want those floors shining, those windows sparkling, make a good impression.
For sure. And that's where those cleaning companies that specialize in certain things have a real shot.
Oh, yeah.
Like the ones that do carpet cleaning, floor maintenance, or even pressure washing for those outdoor areas,
Right.
they can really become the go-to experts for keeping these high-end places in tip-top shape.
So it's not just about cleaning anymore.
Nope.
It's about knowing what these new office tenants want.
Right, absolutely. They're looking for that next level service, attention to detail, using eco-friendly stuff, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So it's like cleaning companies need to go through their own little makeover to stay ahead of the game.
I think you're right. They need to be proactive, train their people on the latest and greatest, and really build those relationships with the people making the decisions.
It's all about being ready for anything, going the extra mile, making sure those businesses have a great experience.
Exactly. The ones who do that well, the ones who get this shift and change with it, they're the ones who are going to thrive along with these successful businesses.
It's like they're surfing this waves of office leasing, using it to grow their own business.
Yeah, and of course, it's not just cleaning companies.
Right.
This whole thing affects a ton of businesses that work with offices.
Right. Like catering companies with those fancy lunches or tech support, keeping everything running smooth. Even the designers making those cool workspaces. It all adds up.
Yeah, it's like this whole ecosystem is getting a boost from everyone heading back to the office.
But let's zoom out for a sec.
Okay.
This isn't just happening in Manhattan, right? Are we seeing this office come back in other big cities too?
Totally. We're seeing it all over the U.S., from San Francisco to Chicago to Boston. It's like a nationwide thing now.
So it's kind of pushing back against this whole idea that, remote work is the future, the only way we'll be working from now on.
It definitely adds something new to think about. While remote work is here to stay, for sure, this trend shows that the office still has a place in the future of work,
It seems like we're moving towards a hybrid model where companies are finding that balance between like the freedom of working remotely and the good stuff that comes from working together in person.
That's a great point, and it makes you wonder how this will change the way offices are designed and used in the future.
Yeah.
Will we see more adaptable spaces, more areas for collaboration, even more tech to connect those in-person and remote teams? It's fascinating.
It's like we're seeing the beginning of a whole new era of office design.
Uh-huh.
One that's all about meeting the needs of a more, dynamic and connected workforce.
And that change affects so much more than just the office itself.
Oh, yeah.
It has an impact on urban planning, transportation, how lively downtown areas are, even the health of the local economy.
Think about all those restaurants, shops, and cultural spots that rely on people working in offices.
Exactly.
This office revival could be huge for those places that struggled during the pandemic.
It could bring those city centers back to life, bring back that energy that makes cities so cool.
So it's not just about offices, it's about how everything in a city is connected.
Exactly, and how different parts of the city rely on each other.
It's like a reminder that how we work shapes our cities in a really big way.
It does. It does.
This all makes me wonder, is this office comeback going to last? Are we really seeing people going back to the office for good, or is this just a temporary thing while companies figure out their long-term plans?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's hard to know for sure what's going to happen, but one thing's clear. The office isn't dead, it's just changing,
Yeah.
It's adapting to what businesses and workers need, and all this change is impacting the whole city, too.
It's like we're in the middle of this big experiment, watching how work changes and how it reshapes the cities we live in.
And that's what makes it so interesting. We're not just watching this happen, we're a part of it.
Yeah.
And the choices we make, all of us, are going to decide what work looks like in the future and what our cities will become.
So as we're wrapping up this look at the Manhattan office leasing surge, what's the main takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about?
I think the biggest thing is that work is constantly changing. The office isn't going anywhere, but it's definitely not the same.
Right.
And this change brings both challenges and opportunities.
It's a reminder that we all need to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Whether you're a CEO, an employee, even a cleaning company owner, being able to see those changes and react to them is going to be crucial for success.
Absolutely. And it's not just about adapting to what's happening now. It's about seeing what's coming next and getting ready to thrive in this ever-changing world.
So stay curious, stay informed, and be ready to change with the times.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Because the future of work is being created right now. and we all have a part in shaping it. It's kind of funny, we've been talking about this huge change in the office market, but it's not just the big companies that have to change their ways.
That's true. This ripple effect, it reaches all these smaller businesses that depend on those offices.
Exactly. Like we were talking about before, think about the cleaning companies.
Hmm.
They're the ones keeping those offices clean and inviting. And now with these super fancy office spaces, what they do is more important than ever.
Yeah, if I was running a cleaning company now, I'd be all over these new high-end office buildings.
Right.
They're the ones who are going to be super picky about everything being clean and looking perfect.
It's their time to shine,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And those companies that get that and make themselves the experts for these specific spaces, well, they're the ones who are going to have a leg up on everyone else.
It's not just about cleaning anymore. It's about getting what these businesses really need. They need you to be flexible, respond quickly, and care about the environment.
It's about being more than just a cleaner. It's about being a partner, someone who gets the image they're trying to show and helps them make it happen.
Exactly. It's all about building those relationships and seeing the bigger picture.
So anyone out there listening who runs a cleaning company, pay attention. This is your chance to ride this wave of office leasing and really grow your business.
Be proactive, be creative, and be ready to change what you offer to meet the needs of this new market.
And don't be afraid to focus on what you do best.
Yeah.
If you're awesome at carpet cleaning, floor care, or pressure washing, let those businesses in those prime spots know. Make yourself the expert they need to keep their places looking top-notch.
It's a changing world out there, and the ones who roll with the punches, those are the ones who succeed.
Well said, and I think that's a great place to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
But before we go, one last thought for our listeners.
Yeah.
We've seen that the way we work is changing fast. The office isn't going anywhere, but it's definitely not what it used to be.
Right.
And all this change, it brings both good and bad, challenges and opportunities.
The key is to be curious, stay informed, and always be ready to adapt.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep digging deeper into this ever-changing world around us.
Until next time.
Until next time, fellow deep divers.
Come check us out at magicwandcompany.com.